don't have a cup of tea today. I guess that makes this improper in a way. Also, someone pulling up in a car and having that be very audible is also a bit improper. I apologise. Anyway, so welcome back to the Barrow Spotlight, the series where I take a look at something very specific in the book Galactic. Well, at the moment it's not that specific, but it will become very specific, and I just briefly go over my thoughts and some facts about it. In this case, it's Driller. I hope you like the image I chose for this. So what can we say about Driller? Well, Driller is sort of the... No, he's not. Well, when it comes to polls about the most popular class, he doesn't usually rank... He usually ranks fairly high, but Engineer seems to always come out on top for some reason, which I find a bit odd. But Driller is probably the most iconic class, even though Scout is like the mascot, essentially. But I call Driller the most iconic class because of the drills. Because when you take a look at the four classes, they could be very generic class-based shooter classes. You could have... Driller could have been the Demolitionist, which is almost... Well, it's not almost what happened, but there almost was a Demolitionist, and it's still a class that I would like to see if they were to ever add new classes. But they probably shouldn't do that. But if they did, I would like a Demolitionist. But that's the thing. That's what sets Driller apart. It's not a tip. It's far from a typical FPS class. And that's why I think, because I said it in the last video, I probably said it in the Engineer one too. I said it on multiple podcasts that Driller's identity is so much more about his equipment than anything else. Well, it's about the drills more than anything else, because the satchel charge, which is his support tool. Oh, it's not bad, but it's it's negligible. That's how you say it. In comparison to the drills, which are so formulative, so instructive of his identity that, well, it's his namesake. That's how it works. But of course, that doesn't mean other parts of him play a vital role in combat. His weapons do. We'll get to the grenades. But even though I consider the drills to be the most substantial part of Driller's identity, when it comes to his combat role, I believe it comes from a combination of his weapons and his melee potential, in fact, which combines the impact axes and the drills. And overall, you get this, what I call him the elemental brawler, or the operative word there is brawler, because in my opinion, I don't think this is really an opinion. Driller is the close range class. His secondaries can achieve impressive range, especially the wave cooker with its infinite range and it's a hit scan weapon. But Driller is the shorter range one. When you consider the drills are a very powerful combat tool that are essentially have no range, and then all of his primary weapons are fairly short ranged. You could say the sludge pump is an exception because it is projectile based, but it still has quite significant drop off. But mentioning the sludge pump, that's where the elemental part comes in. All of Driller's weapons pretty much invoke the elements. His primary weapons inherently do so. You have fire, ice, and sludge. Secondaries not so much, but they all have combos, and the EPC has plasma burn built into it, but it's a mod. And then the wave cooker likes elements quite a bit as well. It's almost like a primary. But consider him the elemental brawler because it's his job to lay down status effects on enemies, but also bring the pain, as it were, with drills and other means of his secondaries and other means of burst damage. But is he exclusively short range? Well, no, like I said, because the secondaries are long range. But I wouldn't say it feels like you're encouraged to use them at long range. It's something like explosive reload and plasma burn EPC with high velocity projectiles, or just the wave cooker in a lot of different forms. Very useful for picking up. Well, of course, the secondaries are very long range. I don't think they enforce that so much. They're very useful for picking things off, like spitters, like I said. But in the way that they work, they seem very deliberately made to combo with the primaries. The Sabata with the flamethrower, the APC with the cryo cannon. When you consider Flying Nightmare and Plasma Burn, and then of course the wave cooker with all of them, all three. and then you realise that you're not really meant to use the secondaries on their own, because Driller is inherently a combo class. That's how you play him. Engineer, I said, uses all of his arsenal in tandem to achieve the best results, but that's not combos. It's not like the mods enforce that. There's some soft enforcing of that when you look at something like whatever it's called, the electric damage bonus upgrades that a lot of engineers' weapons have, things like that. But it's not as explicit as, say, Driller. Even Gunner, no, sorry, not Gunner. Gunner's not about combos at all, except for one build. Even Scout is not as on the nose as Driller, I think, because even the drills, it feels like they're made for the cryo cannon. Same with the impact axes. And I want to talk about the melee part, because the drills they stand alongside, I think, the turrets. They definitely exceed the turrets when it comes to the most useful in combat for a tool, a support or traversal tool. They're the only traversal tool that have damage capabilities, and probably the most powerful in combat out of all of the tools across all the classes. They deal very powerful. They deal a lot of melee damage. Really, only a lot when you take the upgrade to add more damage to the drills. But there's really no reason to not take that upgrade. And they also deal fear and stun and insane armor breaking. It's actually 10,000% armor breaking, which is stupid. It doesn't. It's just so stupid, but I love it. And then so the drills can be used to great effect. You can actually take on like most sizes of grunt hordes with them. You can use them to achieve decent damage over time against the Praetorian if you're able to dance around them. You can do a lot with the drills. If you can keep safe while using them, you can really use them to substitute for your weapons. And especially when you combine it with Vampire, you realise that Driller has a sort of melee focus sort of built into him somewhere. And it definitely comes from the drills, but it also comes from the drills, and it comes from the cryo cannon, allowing melee to be much more powerful, and it comes from the impact axes, which are brought so heavily to the forefront because of Driller's grenade problem, which is a video of ours that you can check out. Tyler did a great job on that. You can go watch it. I might link it in the description. So go, yeah. But it's been established that Driller has a grenade problem in that one rises above the other two so massively. The impact axes are so much more popular, than the other two, than the HE grenades and the neurotoxin grenades, and that's because they are so much better. It's just the way it is. And the fact that you also start with them, and they are a melee grenade, to me sort of brings home this idea that Driller has a soft melee focus built into him, or you could even argue a hard melee focus. It just doesn't feel that hard because, it's a bit of an odd term, it just doesn't feel that on the nose when it comes to melee because it's not built into his weapons. But there are no melee primary or secondary weapons, But, the drills are, and in all, I want to bring this back to identity only very briefly. Actually, no, I want to talk about identity a bit more, because, like I said, the drills are formulative for his identity. They are the foundation, and in all art of the game, except for the last two seasons, the key art showing off the new weapons, apart from those pieces of art, Driller is pretty much always shown using his drills, because that's what makes him the Driller, not Flamethrower. Of course, DRG players think of Flamethrower when you say Driller, because same with the other weapons probably, but the Flamethrower has been around for a while. When it's the Flamethrower, Flamethrower is an iconic weapon in the real world and in pop culture anyway, so it sticks out in that aspect. But Driller is the Driller. The drills make him what he is, really. They make him the Driller. The Demolitionist could have had a Flamethrower, and people would have probably fought for the Flamethrower more than whatever tools the Demolitionist may have had. But the fact that it's Driller means that people think of the drills more. And when it comes to, I should probably take a brief pause instead of moving directly onto a different topic. That's long enough. When it comes to Driller's more hypothetical identity, who he is as a person, which I always find to be a weird discussion, considering I think every player is meant to be every player's dwarves are meant to be their own people. I don't think any the classes have their have restricted personalities. But if we were to take Driller as a baseline, say that he is a person, Driller seems to be treated by the community as sort of a psychopath, which I find quite funny, and it's probably very likely considering his weapons, his means of combat, and well, I guess it's been sort of hammered home or hammered in by the players themselves with the tendencies to blow up your teammates, which is really the best use for the Sanctuary artist, let's be honest. I'm looking at you, Tyler. But that's, well, frankly, that's all we want to say about that. But, I don't need this to go on forever. But what I will talk about before we end this is Driller's actual role in combat, because I feel like I haven't really got to that properly. I call him the Elemental Brawler, and I call him the Brawler, but what he really is sort of the primary crowd clearer of the group. Even when he's using the Cryo Cannon, the Cryo Cannon is still very good at crowd clearing and allows your teammates to crowd clear so easily that Driller is making that happen so completely that he's doing that job, you need him there for that to happen. So he is the crowd clearer, he's the damage dealer. He should be in the fight. Aside from, Scout should be sort of dancing around, kiting enemies, getting to a safe distance to pick off priority targets. Engineer and Gunner should be holding their ground, creating choke points and keeping the team alive, or more specifically keeping the Driller alive, because the Driller should be full force in the thick of it, fucking shit up, basically. That's his job, and I appreciate that as a class. He is a very aggressive play style, even though it relies on a lot of combos, but not the most demanding either. I think there's something about Driller where he doesn't seem to be too taxing to play, even though he relies on combos a fair amount, and his weapons don't always do the work entirely on their own. Even the flamethrower or the sludge pump, or especially the Cryo Cannon, they don't do a lot of the work on their own. I think the sludge pump does, but still, that's sort of where I see Driller's role in combat. He's meant to be in the thick of it, not necessarily picking things off at a range. He's meant to get up close and deal a shit ton of damage and help his teammates just thin out the horde. And he does it bloody well. It's kind of hard not to. Even the flamethrower, which I'm not a huge fan of, I understand how good it is at crowd clearing. It's fantastic. I'm also just now realising that I forgot to play music in the background of this. So this was really a scuffed episode of Barrel Vision Spotlight. I'm also anticipating streaming very soon. I'm recording this before doing the stream, which is the road to level 1000, where I'm going to be playing until I get to level 1000. I am level 996 at the time of recording, so it's a reasonable thing to do. I shouldn't say I'll see you then. On the stream, I should say you'll see me then in this video. But yeah, I don't really have much more to say about Driller. I'm much more excited to actually get into Driller's individual items, piece of equipment. That's really what I want to get at. And I'll see you then as well, I suppose. I mean, the next episode of this will be Scout, which should be pretty boring, actually. Scout's pretty self-explanatory. You can probably guess what I'm going to say. But yeah, I'm going to stop, wasting your time, and we can actually have this be fairly short, or shorter than the other two. So I think that'll be all. There's something else I forgot, because I was meant to show this off. This. I wanted to, well, it's not really showing it off, but it's a very simple animation that OBS allows you to do. I show it and hide it. I should have had this up for most of the time, though. I feel like. Anyway, I want to drill a quote to end this on. Oh, pretty easy. Wait, no, it's not. Hold on. I'm going to find one. Right, I got it. Drill 'em and grill 'em.